Hello, Taylor Ellwood here, and welcome to a Magical Experiments podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about an interesting book I'm reading called Holy Daemon by Frater Acher that I'm reading right now. It's really fascinating book. I have been learning about the history of daimonic spirits, kind of the classical history, and it's a thought-provoking book. I'm reading it because I am doing research for my next Walking with Spirit or next book in the Walking with Spirit series, which is going to be called Walking with Daimonic Spirits. I've been doing a fair amount of work with daimonic spirits for a long time now, but a lot in the last few years, and so I'm planning on writing this book fairly soon. But I'm continuing to read up on different books, and this book is really interesting because it explores the nature of how to connect with kind of the demonic spirit, but it explores it from a kind of an approach that I would say is it's like connecting with the demonic spirit within you as well as with demonic spirits around you, but from the perspective of demonic spirits in the classical sense. Spirits that are oriented in nature, oriented in the world around us, and that connect us to the deeper wisdom. I think it's really important to continually look at different perspectives on spirits, especially when we're working with specific types, because a lot of times our notions of those spirits are defined by contemporary thought and practice, or by maybe some older traditions, but by traditions that nonetheless don't have the full picture. So one of the reasons why I always do an extensive amount of research with all the different books that I read and study is because I want to understand the practices that I'm working with and exploring. And I want to understand specifically how they come together in a meaningful way. So this is really important in terms of our overall work, in terms of working with spirits. And so for me, reading this book has been interesting because he's explored Zoroastrian perspectives, ancient Greek perspectives, as well as ancient Babylonian perspectives, Chaldean perspectives on demonic spirits, which is a lot further than what we typically see in most of the grimoire traditions. Now, my own work with demonic spirits has always been along the lines of working with the Goetia, and specifically working with them in a collaborative way, building a relationship with them that is helpful and meaningful and allows us to transform the way that we work with those spirits. The majority of books out there on this topic typically tend to take an approach of, we're going to strong arm you on working with spirits. I don't know yet if this book takes that approach because I've only been reading the history section so far. But it's a promising book because of how it explores this concept of demonic spirits and this idea of working with them and situating and rooting them in the world around us. Often what I see with a lot of other books, not all of them, mind you, but a lot of the books that I end up seeing is a situation where demonic spirits are kind of broken apart from other types of spirits, and they're treated as quote unquote evil spirits, which I don't feel is accurate at all. I don't think that spirits are inherently good or evil. Like people have this idea that angels, for example, are good spirits, and that's not necessarily true. Angels may not be necessarily good spirits. They may not be evil spirits either. I think that when we ascribe certain motivations to types of spirits, what we're really doing is we're trying to humanize them and situate them in a way that makes sense to us. What we're not recognizing is that those spirits may, in fact, not have that kind of scope, that they may have a very different perspective that they're bringing to the world around us. So I think it's really important to recognize that, and to recognize that the way that we look at spirits can really be significantly shaped more so by the perspectives that other people shared than by our actual work. And so we need to engage with the spirits. And so reading this book, he does talk a lot about his work with his own daemon. I haven't read that to that part yet, but it gives me, what I like about it is that he's taken the time to situate these different perspectives and beliefs, and at the same time really done a good job of putting together a scholarly understanding of the context of how daemons were worked with in the ancient world. And this is important because we want to examine our own relationship. We should take a look at the different contexts, but at the same time understand that those contexts are necessarily also limited by both our own perspective and by the perspectives of the people that present them to us. When I work with demonic spirits, I always take the approach of working with the spirit from the perspective of, how are you ultimately approaching me? How do you feel? What does it feel like to work with you? And if I'm happy with the way that the spirits show, if not happy, but if I feel like the relationship is reasonable and good and one that makes sense, then I'll work with the spirit. And by the use of the word good, I don't mean necessarily that the spirit's good, but that the spirit and I make sense, that we understand and recognize each other and work together from a place of respect and value. That's what I'm referring to. So in our own spiritual work, we want to keep that in mind and maintain an awareness of how to work with spirits that's informed by the perspective of what those spirits may mean for us and to us, and do it in a manner that ultimately empowers us. And that's really a significant part of this spiritual work that I'm doing. My goal with any of the spirit books that I'm writing is ultimately to present a different perspective than what I see out there. And to give you a different context so that you can explore and create your own relationship with spirits instead of relying upon a narrative that any one person, myself included, gives to you. I think this is really important because ultimately our relationships with spirits are highly personal. The way that I might work with a spirit may not work for you, and that's okay. And it may not be the kind of relationship you have with that spirit, and that's okay. We need to recognize that and not try to force ourselves to adhere to a limited notion of how the spirits may or may not interact with us. And when we understand that, that's when we'll build truly collaborative relationships with those spirits, because we'll be open to engaging with the spirits on their terms. And that's kind of this concept of working with the demonic spirit. When we connect with our own daemon, our own demonic spirits, both the one within us and the ones around us, we learn to develop a relationship with them that is empowered and is collaborative for all involved. And I would argue that there is a reason that the spirits want to engage with us, but that reason is one that we have to discover on our own. I can tell you my thoughts on why a spirit needs to work with us, and I have shared those thoughts before. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we still have to discover for ourselves what it means to work with those spirits and how to build a collaborative relationship with them that ultimately empowers us, but also give something back to the spirits, whatever it is they may be looking for. All right, that's it. That's just some of the thoughts and some things that I'm working on, and I look forward to sharing more with you.